Welcome to our next edition of the Foundation Speaker Series. My name is Karen Musanti. Today I am being joined by a longtime board member and friend of mine, David Campbell. Dave is president and CEO and owner of Benjamin Obdyke Incorporated. He was born and raised in Abington, Pennsylvania. He attended Penn State University, majoring in accounting. He also earned a master's in management from Northwestern University. After graduating from Penn State, Dave worked for Coopers & Lybrand, now PricewaterhouseCoopers, a public accounting firm in Philadelphia, prior to joining Benjamin Obdyke as their controller. In addition to PFEW, Dave is active in his church, is on schools committee at Abington Friends School, and is actively involved in mission work in Mexico through Homes of Hope. Dave is married to Gwen and is the proud father of 4 children. Welcome, Dave. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. So Dave, I've known you for many years, and I will admit that I had no idea what Benjamin Obdyke did or the different products that you made and the history of it. So maybe you could start out by telling our viewers a little bit about Benjamin Obdyke.
Absolutely. Benjamin Obdyke actually founded the company with his brother back in 1868. So the company's been around for over 150 years. They were in the roof drainage business, which is basically gutters and downspouts. They manufactured them in the Philadelphia market. My grandfather bought the business in 1929. Being the astute businessman that he was, he bought it right before the crash, but survived the depression. And so I represent third generation at this point of the business. And if you go all the way back between the Obdyke family and the Campbell family, that's 6 generations of ownership of the business. In terms of what we do, we sold the roof drainage part of the business back in 1998. So I'm sure Ben and my grandfather would be shocked to see what the business is today. But basically what we do is we develop, market, and distribute exterior building products that address moisture management issues. Most people would not be familiar with our brand names because our target market is really the architect, the professional builder, and the professional contractor. And our product is always going to go behind the siding or underneath the roofing. So as a homeowner, if you see our product, that means there's a serious problem going on with your home. Right. So basically, our premise is that we want those professionals to build better. So we do a lot of education, we do a lot of training. We're very much tied into the building science community, always looking for ways to build better.
Sure. Yeah, I did a little research on the company before talking with you, and I saw where you've sold product lines, you've invented new products, and that you're really focused on working with, like you said, the contractors to make sure not only they know about what your product is, but how to install it correctly. So maybe talk a little bit about how you had to change focus over the years, and maybe why you would make a decision to pivot and move your product lines.
Well, I think that the big thing for us was we just saw in the roof drainage business, and we always referred to it as the metal business because we were actually a manufacturer roll forming product. It just became a very much of a commodity business. If you could grow the business by 5% a year, it was because you had to lower your prices or whatever. And it was fortuitous, and sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. A major competitor offered to buy the metal business from us. Okay. And the number that they offered us was ridiculous, quite frankly. So at the time, my brother and I were in the business. We decided to do that. And, so quite honestly, I'd say the first year or 2 years after we sold the business, both in our market and a lot of our employees were concerned because it was such a huge piece of our business. But it kind of rejuvenated the business. It made it more exciting. We got to look at new products. All of a sudden, products are growing 15, 20, 25% a year. It kind of got everyone fired up. The size of the organization shrunk. So basically, we had maybe 30 employees instead of over 100. And I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed the fact that it was almost back to the size it was when I first joined the company back in 1980.
Very good. So let's, before we get into talking more about Benjamin Obdyke and your role there, let's go all the way back to Abington High School in Montgomery County and Penn State and Northwestern. Can you talk a little bit about the types of classes that interested you? And were those classes, did you know at that time what you wanted to do, for a career, or maybe you've totally taken a turn in a different path, but what interest did you have as a high school student and college student?
I always thought I wanted to be a brain surgeon, but then the sight of blood really made me sick.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
No, seriously. I guess because I was involved with the family business and I worked summers probably since I was 12 years old in some capacity in the business, I knew I always wanted to be a business major. I took some business classes in high school, but quite frankly, that didn't really interest me. The classes that interested me in high school were more around math and history. And quite frankly, I think a lot of that had to do with the teachers. If I had a teacher that was passionate, really knew their subject matter, I could get excited about it. Someone that made me think and would challenge my thinking. But when I went to Penn State, I knew that I wanted to go into business. My two older brothers had gone in, started out as engineers, and after a year, they went into business. So I learned from that. Why go into engineering if I'm going to end up in business anyway?
Sure.
And after a year at Penn State is really when I decided that accounting was where I wanted to focus. And a lot of that, again, I didn't go into college thinking I wanted to be an accountant, but having spent time with some upperclassmen on the floor at the dorm that I lived in, spending time talking to them, I came away with a sense that public accounting or accounting is really the language of business. And if you really want to understand business and know whether you're being successful or not, you have to be able to read a financial statement. You have to be able to evaluate your balance sheet, all the things that we talk about with the students at PFEW. So I realized that was going to be a great foundation. And then obviously going from that into public accounting was a natural transition, but I also recognized that was really just foundational. After spending a year in public accounting, I knew I did not want to be in public accounting my whole life. Sure. And it just became, how many years did I feel that I needed to spend there, whether it was going to be Benjamin Obdyke or another company, before I decided to make a move.
Are there any courses or any classes or activities that you perhaps wish you would have taken in your younger years that maybe you've had to take now, or that you could advise young people to consider?
No, I really don't think in terms of classes that I wish I had taken. I probably would say that I should have been more aggressive or more willing to take a risk and take some classes outside of what I would normally take when you think in terms of business. I think a mistake a lot of people make is if they think they know exactly what they want to do and they want to take classes and courses that focus just on that. Number one, you might find that 2 years, 3 years from now, that's not what you want to do. But even more importantly, just broaden your exposure, broaden your perspective, increase your critical thinking skills. Things that I don't know that, say, a business class is necessarily going to expose you to. Probably an undergraduate, I probably should have taken more marketing classes. That's ultimately why I went back to Northwestern, was to focus on that and strategic planning, because I was so focused on accounting and finance. But eventually, that's the reason I went back to Northwestern, was to get that exposure.
Right. So let's talk about what you do personally on a day-to-day basis. What are your responsibilities when you get up in the morning? And I know that right now you're actually transitioning and you're looking to retire maybe in the next few years, so there may be all that going on. But normally, what would a typical day of Dave Campbell look like?
Boy, I tell you, that's a great question. And I'm sure if you talk to people that work here, they would give you a totally different answer than what I'm going to tell you. Yeah. I think, my day varies. I have somebody as a chief operating officer now in George, who really everyone reports up through him. So he's really technically my only report to. So I talk to him on a regular basis. We talk every day. What's going on. I find myself more as a coach or mentor now than I find myself as a quote unquote manager. And it's really, as Tara, our marketing director, would tell you, she accuses me of Campbelling, where I walk into someone's office and they can't get rid of me. So a lot of that is just, understanding what's going on, being able to give people my perspective, my experience. Obviously, if there's key customers or key suppliers that the team feels that I can bring value in meeting with a bank, obviously. Sometimes not so much because I'm the president, but as the owner, some of those key stakeholders, want to meet me and realize that I'm actually a person, that I am alive.
Right.
So, other than that, asking a lot of questions, I'm accused of that. Why do we do this? Why do we do that? Just trying to bring a different perspective and get people to think a little bit outside the box in terms of, because you can get caught up, and I did myself, getting into the weeds. And I see my role as being, okay, let's not lose sight of what our vision is, where we're trying to go, and making sure that we have the right people. So one of the things I do, not on a daily basis, but the interview process. I'm involved in, when we hire anyone at Benjamin Obdyke, really mostly to look at fit, look at values. Are they going to fit into our culture? I rely on everyone else to determine whether they have the competencies and the skill set to do the job.
Sure. So I happen to know a little bit about your culture and know a few of your employees, and I know that you enjoy joking around. I know that you guys publish a yearly Christmas video that tends to feature you in sometimes not so great way. But you share that with your customers and your vendors, and it's really very funny. And we look forward to getting it every year. So maybe talk a little bit about it, why it's so important just to enjoy your job and enjoy going to work every day.
I think, obviously the quick answer to that is, when you think about how much time you spend at work, you look at over your whole career, why not enjoy it? Why be miserable? I think I've had friends that by the time they were in their mid-30s, they were talking about what they were going to do in retirement. And I'm thinking, geez, you're going to spend the next 30 years, waiting for something, and God forbid you might not even make it to retirement. Right. So, why not enjoy what you do? So that's a quick answer. I think the other thing, and this again speaks a little bit to, I think, our values, but I find people that enjoy their job or find joy in their work are more productive. They're more engaged. They're more engaged with their fellow employees. And I think at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. And obviously it affects your home life. If you're at work all day and you're miserable, unfortunately, when you go home, typically you don't turn the switch off. So, it's going to make for a happier home life and personal life if you enjoy your job.
Sure. You talked a little bit about values. I know that your company has set values and all of your employees are very aware of those values. Can you talk a little bit about some of what your company's values are?
Sure. Obviously, we talk about fun. So, one of our taglines is we take the work seriously, but not ourselves. And I think I'm the prime example of that. I think in addition to that, we find that through humor, you can break some of the tension. Through humor, you can minimize ego. We can joke with each other and kind of knock you down a peg if you start to feel a little bit like you're a little bit too big for your britches. And I think it also adds to creativity. If you can joke with people and have some fun, I think that goes a long way. Some of the other things that we focus on in terms of values is being a great team player, focused on something bigger than yourself. And I think that also goes to collaboration. It goes to being able to enjoy the success of the team. So that's important. One of the other things that we talk about is be the best you. Humility, again, being grateful. Having a positive attitude when you're dealing with some challenges. So I think that becomes important. And the final one that we talk about is leaving a legacy, which people look to my father as an example of that is, adding value to the company every time. Every job you're doing, think, how can I add value to this? Intellectual curiosity, which basically means you ask a lot of questions. Why do we do it this way? And be challenging each other. How does the internet work? I have no clue. And I really don't care. But there are people here that ask those kind of questions.
Right.
I think the thing that's most important, and my brother captured this one time in a conversation, is that all these values complement and support each other. If our focus was just on having fun, as my brother said, we might as well be a daycare center. We wouldn't be successful, and we wouldn't be here today. So we can have fun, but we also have to be focused on our other values as well, and basically support what it is we're trying to do here at Benjamin Obdyke.
Sure. Well, lastly, I know that volunteering is a big part of your life. You volunteer for us. You volunteer with Abington School. Just talk a little bit about the importance of volunteering.
Well, I think to me, it comes back to sort of what your values are and what's important to you. I'm fortunate enough in that I can translate my personal mission and vision into the business. Not everyone obviously can do that, but basically my mission, if you will, in life is to help people reach their potential. And so everything I do, whether it's dealing with my children, whether it's dealing with people at my church, it's all about what can I be doing to help someone grow and evolve and become, reach their potential. So whether I'm doing mission work in Mexico, whether I'm doing work at Abington Friends School, whether I'm doing work at PFEW, to me, it's all about how can I be helping people grow and develop. And what's interesting is that translates back to me. I've grown tremendously. When we talk about PFEW, we talk about being a company advisor. I have learned as much, if not more, from spending time with the children and the youth than I'm sure that I've imparted on them.
Sure. Wow. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. Thanks for all you've done for us. You're a past board chair of our foundation and have really helped our organization to grow. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I enjoyed it, and looking forward to when we can get back at Lycoming and work with those children.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thanks.
Finally, if you'd like to connect with Dave directly, his contact information will be available at the end of this video. Thanks for joining us.